Hello everyone, and welcome to a new weekly writing vlog. You've seen it before, you're seeing it again. Come with me on another week documenting my writing. And the only difference is this week I will not be working on Project Matcha Latte, and instead this week is solely going to be Pine Hollow. I am at almost 18,000 words of my 30,000 goal for Camp NaNoWriMo, which means I am still ahead. I think when I checked earlier, the word count I should be up to is like 14 something today to do, the minimum daily amount to reach 30,000. But I digress because we are not focusing on word count as a metric of productivity because I'm an overwriter, so I'm going to hit my word count anyway. What I need to be focusing on is outlining the next beat, I guess, maybe couple of beats. I did some free writing earlier for the maybe this will work beat to try and determine how I think this should look leading into the midpoint and if this should be the big romance scene or if I should save that for the midpoint, because it can kind of go either way, I've noticed. So yeah, I've just been doing a little tiny bit of brainstorming. I'm going to be doing some more before I officially start chapter 13, but those are my goals for today, is to really brainstorm the maybe this will work beats and start chapter 13. So it is 10:15. I feel like I am in a good place. I feel like I am going to be able to accomplish both of these things today. I am working from home. It's kind of a slow day. I'm going to take advantage of that. And yeah, before anything else, I want to talk about this book a little bit more because I finished it this weekend. And the most, I guess, frustrating thing about this book is that it could be pretty good. It could be, I won't say it would be like an amazing book, but it could be a pretty good book if it had had maybe a better editor or, forgive me for saying this, simply a better writer to begin with, because I feel like there's some good ideas in here, and there was a good scene between Mendax and Callie that would have been so much more impactful and meaningful to me if everything else about the story had been different leading up to that point. So I'm going to talk a little bit about it just because I got to get it out of my system. I mentioned in the last vlog that we meet Mendax and his first order of business is to spit on Callie's face. And we learn, of course, that Fae are like superior creatures. Humans are kind of just seen as dirt to especially a royal like Mendax. So I guess we're supposed to believe that he would have like spit on any human, humans are beneath him, blah, blah, blah. But the thing with Mendax is that I like a good enemies to lovers romance. The basic plot is that he believes Callie is an assassin sent to kill him, which is something that is not out of the realm of possibilities. It's happened before. It's reasonable to expect him to believe that. That could work as a good story spark, I guess. However, Mendax is just so needlessly cruel and disrespectful and just nasty to Callie. Like the first 2/3 of this book, he's just mean, and mean-spirited. And apart from spitting on her, which is, number one, he kills her in the beginning and she has to be resurrected. It's a whole thing. When she's his prisoner, he sends this other creature to go and kill her because he can't do it himself. He doesn't want to lower himself to killing her. So he sends this other creature that essentially is turned on by her fear and wants to SA her to death. Literally just wants to sexually torture her to death, which that's great. Sent by Mendax. And then for the fourth point that really bothers me is much more mild and could work given different circumstances, a different writer, is that he's just, when he talks to her, when he talks about her, he calls her names, he, calls her a whore, even though she has done nothing to, except for the fact that she's wearing a tiny dress, which is a whole other thing. But, he's just very nasty and mean-spirited towards her, and, she is the dirt beneath his boots, all that shit. But then, like I said, that's the first 2/3, and then suddenly it's a switch is flipped and there's a complete 180, and suddenly he's in love with her. He can't live without her. If she ever left him, that would be a fate worse than death. He literally tells her his full name, because if you know anything about the Fae, names are very powerful. So obviously there's no way for her to know his real name, but just out of nowhere, he decides to tell her his real name because he just loves her so much. Suddenly she's in love with him too. The romance was just so rushed, when up until this point we have seen him doing nothing but be a mean and horrible person and kill other people, and also just like, suddenly you love her. Why? Because she's pretty and you can admit that she's pretty. It's just a crazy bad romance, and I hate it. And another thing about Callie is just, I mentioned she has a whole not like other girls syndrome. Up to like chapter 6 is Callie in her own world, and we see the status quo, of her world. And literally, you will never forget that she's supposed to be a pretty blonde character, because it's like all she talks about is how pretty she is, how young she is, how people are so surprised that she's not married and that she doesn't have children. She's just so young and pretty, and she's wasting her life. I get it to a certain extent, because if you are a woman involved in like a STEM kind of career, people do expect you to give that up to eventually have children. It doesn't even have to be a STEM career, it could be any kind of career when people expect you to give that up so that you can start a family and do the traditionally feminine, role. So I do get it to an extent, but it's like this author beats it into our head that Callie is just so pretty and so perfect and everyone loves her. Like every man that sees her falls in love with her, and every woman that sees her is jealous of her, and that's obviously very annoying. But just the romance itself could have been good, and it wasn't, because I feel like the author went too far in the beginning in making Mendax so nasty, and it was just to a point where, for me personally, there's no coming back. He could not be redeemed, and I could not give a shit about the scene where he gives her his name, which I should have cared about. And then the end of the story just wasn't that good either. It has this really crazy twist that I feel it was not set up in a good, thoughtful way, and it just seems to come out of nowhere, and it's just like, oh. And so I think it could be a good twist. I think this feels like it should have been like a second draft, and maybe you needed a third draft, if that makes sense. There's a very small part of me that is interested in the second book just to know what happens, but I don't think I'm actually going to buy it, because it's just, I spent $18 on this, and it just made me angry, and it made me think I could do it better, and I don't read books to feel like that. I don't know. So yeah, I don't really recommend it, but if you read this and liked it, I'm not, trying to say that you have terrible taste. It's just this book was not for me personally, and I think it could have been a little better, and I'm disappointed that it wasn't, because I do still like some of the ideas in here. I've heard some people call it like a budget ACOTAR, which I can kind of see. I will say I don't understand why any book that like involves the Fae involves like trials and the main character having to pass trials. I don't really get that. I feel like that was kind of popularized by ACOTAR. And now I have to figure out what I'm going to read next. I have Chosen Ones by Veronica Roth that it's just been like mocking me, because I was so excited to read it. I almost ordered it, and then I found it in Walmart, and then I just put it in my stack of books and have not looked at it since. So I'm kind of leaning towards reading that. It really sucks liking so many different genres when it comes to reading, because I want to read what I'm writing, and what I'm writing is romance, but I also want to read other books that seem really good, like Chosen Ones, or like, I bought, what was it called? The Institute by Stephen King. Oh, I can't see it, I have it blocked. But yeah, I bought that when it came out, and I still have not read it, even though I really want to. It's just such a big book. I know it's going to be a big undertaking, and it's not the genre that I'm writing, so I feel like I shouldn't read it. So yeah, I have to figure out what I'm reading next, and hopefully I enjoy it more than I enjoyed that one. And yeah, sorry to sound like such an asshole. Obviously writing is hard, and I hate shit talking other writers, because I am very sensitive and my feelings get hurt when I receive even the slightest bit of criticism. So I don't know. I don't like to be a person who doles out criticism at the same time. It is what it is. That's what I did. So yeah, now I'm going to work on some brainstorming for chapter 13. So maybe this will work beats. I feel like I am going to reasonably be able to split this up into 2, maybe 3 chapters, in which case, I don't know, maybe the midpoint will be the big romance scene, and by romance I mean the big spicy scene, you know, the culmination of all the romantic tension. So yeah, I'm going to get started on some brainstorming. So I busted out my microphone because the AC is running, because my partner fixed it for me, but the AC is running and I just got sick of worrying about whether or not you could hear me. So hopefully this microphone works. But yeah, so it is 3:12. I have been off work since 2:30 and I have finished chapter 13, which is awesome. And it is a little over 2,000 words. And this isn't the full maybe this will work beat. This is like half of the maybe this will work beat. And so what I will be writing tomorrow, chapter 14, will be the second half of this beat, and then we will be at the midpoint. So I'm not sure if it'll work, but if I can write the full chapter tomorrow, chapter 14, then I will have 3 days to write the midpoint, and I'm feeling really good about this goal this week of getting past the midpoint. So yeah, I'm just feeling really good. So I'm home. It is like 2:40. I'm home. I did not finish chapter 14, and it feels like a bigger undertaking than I thought it would be, unfortunately. So I am going to jump into working on it and try to finish today. I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to, but I really hope I can. I changed my shirt because the other one, I was just really uncomfortable in it. If you were wondering, this is not a different day. I'm not trying to be sneaky with my filming. Alright, so I finished chapter 16, which also means that I am finished with the midpoint. Chapter 16 was kind of a shorter chapter because I didn't have as much that needed to be covered. It was kind of like wrapping up the midpoint basically, but I'm excited either way. I can now, tomorrow, brainstorm the Inkling of Doubt, which I already have an idea of like how the next couple of beats should go. I did a little bit of like brainstorming initially when I needed to know what kind of, I guess, drama I was building up to from the beginning. So I have a vague idea, but I can really get into the meat of it when I brainstorm tomorrow, because I'm done writing for tonight. Tonight is the season finale of The Boys, which I'm upset about because it feels like it just started. And the title is Assassination Run. Run as in A Train. I'm scared. But yeah, so tonight is the boys, and then I think I want to read a little bit, and I'm just gonna relax for the rest of the night. So tomorrow I will brainstorm The Inkling of Doubt and start chapter 17, and I'm just feeling really good. I just really wish I was finished. I wish I was at the point where I was revising this and turning it into a first draft, because I just feel good about the changes that I'm making. I think I am introducing side characters in a much more organic way, and I'm just feeling good. So yeah, going into tomorrow, ahead of schedule, I had hoped to finish the midpoint by the end of tomorrow, and I'm already finished. So we're going into tomorrow feeling great, and yeah, I will stop rambling because I don't need to make this vlog any longer than it needs to be. Hey, so it's Friday, it is 2:15. I am just about to get off of work. I'm working from home. Obviously, if you're new here, I work from home on Mondays and Fridays, thank God. But I'm just about to get off of work, and I have not had a good day with work, with my like real adult job, because I've been so frustrated. For my lunch break, I didn't really feel like writing all that much. I've written about 800 words today, which is a lot. I'm not trying to like downplay it. I know for a lot of people, 800 words is like a dream. So I'm not trying to downplay it, but I kind of wish I'd just gotten a little farther in this beat and progressed a little more in this chapter, because right now it's kind of just the setup to chapter 17, which is the setup to The Inkling of Doubt. But I'm not going to harp on that, because my goal this week was to be past the midpoint, and I am past the midpoint. I am firmly in the Inkling of Doubt beat right now, and that feels good. That's exactly what I wanted. And next week, who knows? I will have to determine what beat I think I can reasonably get to by the end of next week. So I'm not transferring my words from today to my computer, and I'm not going to be updating the Nano website today. So as of yesterday, 90% of the way towards my goal of 30,000 words. So over the course of July, I've written like 27,000 words, which is pretty good, and I am not complaining. So I'm going to end this vlog here. I'm ready to start the weekend. I have been reading Chosen Ones, and I'm kind of hoping I can finish this weekend. There's no romance in it, which obviously I knew going in, and obviously I wish there was, but it's still really good. I just think Veronica Roth is a good author, and it's such a unique story. I will say last night I got to part 2. It's split into 2 parts as far as I can tell. I looked for part 3, but I didn't want to spoil myself too much. But it's split into 2 parts, and I got to part 2 and I was very confused. It is a lot more magical than I initially thought it would be. Like when you first start reading it, it feels very grounded and very contemporary, I guess. And then you get to part 2 and it's just like, what? So I was very confused last night. I had to put the book down, but I've since read like a chapter or 2 past part 2, and it's cool. It's interesting and it's different, and I'm enjoying it. And next week, I'm not sure what my goal is, what beat I'm going to try to make it to. I have, as it stands, 10 beats left, I think, including this one, The Inkling of Doubt. That's really fun to think about, actually. Is I feel very close to the end of this story. Technically, I'm only like 55% of the way through this story, but I feel really good about that. And I will formulate next week what beat I want to reach by the end of next week. And until then, thank you for watching this video. I really appreciate it. I hope your Nano is going well if you are participating in the camp session. And yeah, I will see you in my next video, and again, thank you so much for being here, and thank you for watching.